Hi everyone, welcome to this exhibition, AllTogetherNow. I'm William Turner, and it's my pleasure to do what I never get to do, which is introduce an exhibition with no one here. We're all looking for ways to stay connected and do what we love to do during these crazy times. And Saturday, May 2nd, this last Saturday, we opened our first virtual exhibition where you can go to our website and walk through the gallery and the show and get a sense of it. A little bit about this show. We're going to have a solo show, which is all ready to go, for Casper Brindle, which he had worked very hard on and has an amazing body of work. We were just ready to debut. But when this hit, it was clear that the first and most important thing to do was really strategize and be nimble about how we were going to go forward. And so the first thing I wanted to do was to really shine a spotlight on all of our artists with whom we are so honored to work currently and have been for the last 29 years. And so it was just a no-brainer to do this group show. The title for the show, AllTogetherNow, seemed natural because we all are in this together, and the artists have been very supportive of the gallery, and we want to be as supportive as possible of them during this time. So we've got 21 artists in the show, and it's everyone that we work with, whether constantly or not. It's everyone that I could fit into the show that I wanted to have you experience. And surprisingly, the show looks gorgeous. It doesn't feel overhung. It's really interesting. It's kind of the first show that we've done where the theme of the show was to fit as many artists in, and it actually kind of works. During the course of this exhibition, we're going to get to do something that I don't normally get to do when everyone's here. Yes, it's a great ego rush for all of us when we have a packed opening and everyone's here, but what always happens is that the time to talk one-on-one with people is way too short, if it exists at all. It's also really hard to look at the work. So the silver lining to this is that you really will get a chance to see the show at your leisure and see it as well as possible. But also you'll get a chance over the course of this exhibition to talk with the artists. I'm going to be doing something that I used to do when I was art editor for Venice magazine and interview the artists about how they got started, what their process is like, what inspires them, what motivates their aesthetic ideas, and then also just to ask them how they're doing. And hopefully most of them will be in their studios, so you'll get a sense of what their environment is like where they produce this amazing work. So that is a silver lining to me that we don't normally get to do during the course of an exhibition. As part of that, I thought also would be a good opportunity for you to get to know a little brief history of the background of the gallery and my background. So I initially, from when I was a little kid, was always drawn to art. I was always the artist in the family. In high school, I skipped as many classes as possible to take more art classes. When I got to college, I was a fine art major and a philosophy major. And during the summers, I studied with a very amazing sculptor at his studio in Kentucky. And so my plan was to have a career as an artist. But after college, I moved to Berkeley, and I just found that I wasn't in the studio 10, 12 hours a day the way you need to be. So I started to think what the alternative might be, and I thought, well, I did study philosophy, and law might be a real interesting alternative. And luckily, to earn money for law school, I took a job in a gallery in San Francisco, and I just fell in love with it. And it was a way for me to really share my passion for art with my other passion, which is people. So that's how I got started. I still went to law school and got my law degree. But when I moved to LA, after several years, it was time for me to open my own gallery. And I found a little space in Venice which I had derided because these friends of mine who had it first as a temporary space, I had said, there's no storage, there's no parking, it's, it doesn't even really feel like a gallery space. And anyway, they called me up and they said, hey, we found a real gallery space. And I said, great, it's so overdue for you to move to a proper space. And they said, yeah, but we've got a month left on our lease, do you want it? And I went, absolutely, I want it. So that's how I got started, and which was lucky because it was all set up for me. I didn't have to invest a lot of money that I didn't have. And it was also the recession, it was 1991. But from the first day I started hanging the show, I really felt very lucky. I was lucky to get a month on this lease. That day that I was hanging the show for Greg Miller, went next door to 72 Market Street restaurant, and Dennis Hopper was having a show of his artwork, and he was talking to this guy that looked vaguely familiar, and then I realized, oh, that's Robert Rauschenberg. And so I was talking to them, and they couldn't have been friendlier and more open, and especially as we were all talking about art. And literally about 15 minutes later, I saw Rauschenberg walking by the gallery, and I said, Bob, this is the gallery I was telling you about. Do you mind coming in to meet the artist? And he came in and spent about an hour with us, and he was very complimentary about the show and the gallery, and very encouraging. And I thought, it's going to be a tough time, and it was, but it felt like a blessing. And also to be in Venice, where I wasn't really looking for a space, turned out to be a real blessing, because I got to know all of these amazing LA artists like Ed Moses and Chuck Arnoldi and Peter Alexander and Ed Ruscha and Joe Good and Larry Bell, Robert Irwin, all of whom had this nexus to Venice, either in their past or currently. And that really allowed me to get to know them in a way that I never would have had I not been right in the heart of that. So from that tiny little space, I moved to Dwayne Valentine's old studio space, also on Market Street, and did some amazing shows there. I did a show with Lee Albuquerque. I did a really cool show of Robert Irwin piece that had been on Market Street called One Wall Removed, that we showed when Mocha was having his retrospective. And it was really cool. You could only see it from the street at night, and got a lot of attention for the gallery for that. Then shortly after, I moved to LA Louver's old gallery space right next door, and was there until I moved to where I am now in 2003, Bergamot Station. But when I moved here, Larry Bell moved into my old gallery space, which in the 60s had been his studio space, so we took it over again as his studio. So now that's a good little recap of the Bill Turner story. But I really am excited about doing this series of interviews with the artists and over the course of the exhibition. It was something that I did as art editor for Venice magazine for about 20 years, and I quickly realized that it was a great way to meet people I wanted to meet and get to know about them and their work and their history. And I got to interview some amazing people like Allen Ginsberg and William Burroughs and Bill Viola and David Hockney and Ed Moses several times, like 3 times, Robert Graham. So I'll now get to do this with the artists that are in the show. We're going to talk to every one of them from their studios, and I really hope you enjoy it. I should say that the goal of this exhibition is to support our artists during this time. We'll work with you as well as possible to make that happen. But all of the artists and the gallery and myself personally also want to say that we're donating a portion of our proceeds from sales to help a really great organization called the People Concern. They've been working with the homeless population in Los Angeles for quite some time. They're a great organization, I know them well, and they're really fighting not just to help people in the current circumstances they're in with food and shelter, but also to find permanent solutions for them. And they have some very innovative ideas. So my good friend Greg Gurman is on their board, and he and I will talk a little bit about what the organization is doing also as one of these interviews. So with that, enjoy, and I look forward to seeing you back in person as soon as possible. Thank you.